인간이가
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown. With a new split comes a new format, and we return to best of ones this season, and it's important to note that each team will be given side selection once per matchup. We also welcome 4 new teams to the league alongside 6 returning. Those 4 new teams are 100 Thieves, Optic Gaming, Clutch Gaming, and the Golden Guardians.
And I love the quality of the new organizations coming in here. Clutch Gaming's Golden Guardians, backed by big NBA teams. 100 Thieves have Cleveland Cavaliers investments, as well as Call of Duty with Nate Shot. And Optic speaks for itself from the shooter scene. So really awesome orgs I see joining the team here.
It's not just teams that are getting shaken up as well. Rosters have gone absolutely crazy. It's the biggest shakeup we've ever seen. Only 9 players are returning to the teams that they played with last split.
And that's just insane to me. There were 50 starters, even with 6 teams, that's still 30 players. 9? Just so few people.
So as a result of that somewhat baffling statistic, I want to play a game hot and cold. With all these roster moves, I want to know which rosters you're hot on and which ones you're cold on. So Jat, starting with you, hot.
Yeah, well, when I made power rankings, I put COG first, and I'm one of the only people that I feel like...
Explain yourself,
crazy.
sir.
He's crazy.
Apparently, they have 33% of the returning players to the North American LCS starting lineup because they're returning Huhi, Darshan, and Stixay. But the big thing to me in this team is those guys are better than they were given credit for last split because they had a weakness in the jungle with Omar God. And I think Rainover is going to be really, really good on this lineup. He was dominating the league in 2016, had that bad year on Liquid.
About to say, you're saying this in the face of 2017.
Absolute red flag.
Okay.
Without soul lanes, you cannot jungle well without good soul lanes, and these COD soul lanes are super strong. The meta's in the right place, and I think COD is going to do big things with Rainover.
Mark, who are you looking at?
Well, he likes a team that has a lot of consistency. I'm actually going to go with a new team that I think has a really nice roadmap set out. Yes, most of these guys have not played together. There's not pretty much pre-built synergy, but they went and got out a good proven coach in Prawley. The prodigal son returns to North America finally. They grab Meteos and Ryu, who have worked, or Ryu with Prawley, Meteos and Ryu work together. Some days a huge threat in the top lane. You have a leader in the game with Afromu, hopefully. So there's already a pretty good understanding of what they want to do with this team, as well as their social media and fan engagement has been fantastic. Nate Shot has basically gone out and single-handedly built a fan base with how charismatic he is.
And a team with a lot of experience, 989 combined career LCS games, is 5th. It's just behind the 4 big organizations that I'm not going to go off naming.
All right, well, there you have it. Okay, so we've hit some that we're hot on. How about cold? Jat?
Yeah, so right now I'm cold on Optic. Someone has to be last place, even if these guys have long-term plans. I sat down with Romain, heard about his strategy, building the roster, and it all sounds really good, but when I actually look at the way this team is going to execute in game, you see a lot of players that the last we've seen of them haven't actually looked very strong, and they're all just kind of mashed together onto this new team with a new coach in a new org. So that's too many question marks for me to rank them above some other teams.
And for me, Golden Guardians, they have what I like as a foundation where now that we're in permanent partnerships, you can go for a longer term plan, which is what they're doing here. And previously you had to worry about making it to the next split. It was do or die. they're going for long-term planning, but that doesn't mean I'm excited to watch them play right now. This team is currently lacking firepower, in my opinion. You have High's leadership and synergy, and they're all North American, only all North American roster in the LCS. So hopefully there's more synergy, but just purely off name power, this does not look like one team that's going to compete with the top dogs.
I mean, roadmaps and whatnot, it opens up an interesting discussion, rather, that we can track throughout the day and the coming weeks. But I do want to push forward. With all these changes, we decided to take a look at each matchup today and highlight the players that could be pivotal to their team's success. These are our ones to watch. We've got TSM's Mike Young, Optics, Power of Evil, Golden Guardians High, Echo Fox's Huni, and CLG's Reignover. Let's start with TSM's Mike Young.
Yeah, this is game one that's going to be coming up in about 8 minutes, and it's about whether or not Mike Young can perform, because if he shows up in the way he does in these highlight packages, TSM's probably golden, but if he shows up more like he was when he was playing Gragas later in the season and the meta shifted, TSM could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. That's why he's the one to watch. While there's much better players, most likely in this series, a lot of TSM's future success will hinge on him, and this is our first look that we're going to get on him.
Next person I want to take a look at is an import, Optics, Power of Evil. A lot of controversy about this guy joining the North American LCS.
Goes out, represents Europe at Worlds fantastically, going toe-to-toe with Faker, makes a big online pitch.
Vote for me!
Vote for me! Betrays everyone, goes across the Atlantic to North America, and he has a big target on his back. And as well as the fact that a lot of analysts are critical of this team so far, and they haven't even played yet.
Yeah, and they're going up against 100 Thieves, two actually completely new teams, but he'll be going up against Ryu, and he would need to be lane dominant if Optic has a win condition.
Next up, a mainstay of the North American LCS, Golden Guardians High.
Yeah.
He is synonymous with leadership, shot calling, all that stuff. And he's going to have to bring it here because he has so many young players on this team, and he has done this before with a ton of different rosters. He's worked with contracts in the past in the Challenger Series. That's what people are looking for here, more leadership out of High.
And he's got to replicate FlyQuest's success from the spring of last year when everyone else was disorganized. They found order.
But if you're going to invest in somebody for long-term growth with a bunch of new players, High is definitely one of the guys at the top of that list. Next up, Echo Fox's Huni making his return from the LCK after being a runner-up at the World Championship this year.
And a lot of people want to write him off, but do not write off Huni. He dominated some of the best top laners in the world at MSI and the World Championship, and he crushed NA and made people hopeless a year and a half ago. So huge signing for Echo Fox.
I mean, that said, the top lane landscape has changed in North American LCS since he left, with the additions of people like Someday and Flame, who've been wreaking havoc to some degree up there. But without a doubt, a strong player in Huni returning to the North American LCS. Finally, Jat's new favorite player, CLG Reignover. Let's go. Let's hear about him.
Yeah, so Reignover, when he was successful, was when the jungle was more like it was right now, where you can get 2 and 3 levels ahead of the opponent jungler and don't have catch-up experience. So today, a very critical thing against C9 will be what he can do to Svenskeren, who has had some passivity problems in the past. A lot riding on whether or not Reignover can shut down Svenskeren in that last match of the day, CLG versus C9.
All right, well, 5:30 ahead of the game. I'm going to ask you for your predictions with one important caveat. Starting today, we'll be tracking your predictions all split long. For better, or almost certainly.
What do we agree on?
I thought we agreed on
first game of the day, we've got a little bit of disparity, but then FlyQuest,
You
Echo
picked FlyQuest.
Fox.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one then. Let's jump into FlyQuest, Echo Fox. Defend yourselves.
All right, so FlyQuest had gotten started in training a lot earlier than other teams. Their coaching staff is something that people underrate with this team, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Robert Yip from Immortals, Rapid Star from SKT, and previously EDG. They have a lot of success. They've been training hard, and I think that they'll start with more synergy than some of these other teams.
Mark did his homework. I like it. Jat, what do you think? And what's your defense for Echo Fox?
They have Huni.
He's against Flame. Flame's great.
But I also have to say, Echo Fox FlyQuest has 2 rookies. In your own power rankings, you put FlyQuest below Echo Fox. And not to mention, the Team Dignitas team with Adrian and Altec, they always do well at the start of splits.
Yeah, you know power rankings aren't head-to-head matchups. This is, I think
do.
it's a bad matchup for Echo Fox, where Huni's going to be going up against Flame, can't get his individual snowball off that you're going to hope in other matchups.
Interestingly enough, that's our 4th game of the day. Yeah, I'll be excited to watch that one. One of you is going to be wrong. One of you is going to pull ahead in the standings. We'll see. Narrowing our focus, though, onto the first game. Let's go ahead and throw it over to Zyrene, who took a moment to speak with Team Liquid's coach.
Thanks, guys. Yes, I caught up with Coach Kane just moments ago, and he was very confident about his matchup today, saying that this team was going to win, that they were definitely going to win, and that everybody's kind of focused on getting revenge for Double Lift. The 3 members of the Immortal squad aren't really focused on revenge for the finals, and Kane said that he wanted to win this for Peter. He wanted to win this one for Double Lift, and that this roster had exceeded his expectations completely. They're very experienced, and it showed in their scrims, and he couldn't be more pleased with this roster. And when I asked him about going up against TSM, what the scariest thing about them was, he needed a translator for the rest of the interview, but here he replied with one word in English, and it was nothing. Back to you guys.
Nothing to fear. Is that hubris, or is that just, you know, the position that a coach needs to be in when leading into the, you know, opening day of the entire season?
I mean, even Kane, I feel like now with a really good roster has a lot to prove, because we heard a lot of talk from the Team Liquid org coming into Summer Split last year that he was a real difference maker, and they finished 9th in spring and 9th in summer. He didn't make any difference at all. So I hope that Team Liquid is able to show some results with this roster.
I mean, there's confidence across the board. We saw it from both owners in that interview there. Zyrene with the words of Kane saying that there's plenty of confidence there. Doublelift in his player tribune quotes in the different, video bits that we've had of him. Tons of confidence across the board, and yet you two have split the table in your predictions. So I want to take this opportunity to look at win conditions. So, Jat, defend TSM, give me their core win condition.
Yeah, exactly the most important thing for them to do in this game early on in the season, where people don't actually have really strong macro decisions, is win lane, and then they win the game. And I think their roster is set up to do that if you go from top to bottom of the map. Hanser, Bjergsen, and then Sven and Mithi, the, quote, best bot lane in the West, who Doublelift is going to try and prove wrong. But for TSM to win, they just win all those lanes. I don't think there's much Liquid can do.
And much the same reason, I kind of agree with you. I think TL need to make sure they don't let that happen. Get out on the map. Use the pre-existing synergy of Ole and Smithy, two people who are borderline MVP candidates on Immortals last year. Get out on the map, influence some of these lanes. Don't let TSM grind you down. And Sven and Mithi are not a particularly lane-dominant team, or bot lane, excuse me, so it should be okay for Ole to try and get on the map a little bit earlier, even without maybe the synergy being perfect with Doublelift.
I mean, I was about to ask, Jat, with that bot lane, again, best in the West, but not necessarily, considered to be lane-dominant duo, more of a game-dominant duo. Is that, a place that could be attacked by Team Liquid to break this win lane, win game strategy?
I mean, if you look at what Smithy and Ole were able to do on Immortals, even with Cody's son, oftentimes they gank that lane enough to make a big difference. So there are still a lot of variables in this game, and if there is a place you attack, that could definitely be it for Team Liquid, because Doublelift getting those kills can absolutely carry a game, and he's highly motivated.
I think that's something to point out, just because everyone's always concerned about the Ole, Smithy, and Doublelift synergy. And the thing is, while you're concerned about them having different playstyles, if they actually work really well in coordinating ganks with Doublelift, they can snowball even harder theoretically than they ever did with Cody's son, because Doublelift is so much more lane focused.
Final point here on Mike Young, because we didn't really talk about him too much. Obviously, if they're winning lane, that's going to give them a lot of breathing room. But for Team Liquid, again, Ole, Smithy, these are two very intelligent players. Mike Young, I mean, as the rookie, as the losingest player in the North American LCS right now, what's your confidence level in his ability to deal with a near MVP in Smithy?
And what's TSM's confidence level?
Right.
Is he playing Nidalee or is he playing Sejuani?
That's a good question.
That's going to show it.
Right. We had Kha'Zix, Sejuani. We got all kinds of different landscape of champions in the meta today, and we've seen examples of it throughout Korea and Europe. That's another discussion to be had as the day develops, which champions are falling into whose hands and what teams prioritize at the end of the day. That's going to do it for us here at the desk, 30 minutes away from Game 1 of the 2018 season.